All right. So we are back again because my energy shut down the Zoom meeting.
I don't want to blame your energy. It could have been mine as well. Well, and a lot of people have noticed this, walking down the street at night, they notice that as they're walking down the street lights go off,
Okay.
or light bulbs explode in their house, or a lot of people nowadays have problems with their computer. All of a sudden their computer dies or shuts down or freezes or whatever. And a lot of times it is, and people who have this generally know, it's their frequency, because we are electric beings.
Yeah.
We're working with electronics, and so we can affect this usually through high emotions. So I have a friend who
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 10,050 with a special guest, Marilyn Dyke. And just to let you in on the joke of why I said that, this is our 5th time, I believe, to record this, right, Marilyn?
something like that.
We were running into some technical snags, and I actually, brilliant story was shared because of it, and I thought we have to share that. About people's energy fields and how we're energetically we're emitting a frequency, and so are electronical devices. And you shared a story about your friend about, because I would love if our audience could hear that, because I think that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about today. Some magnificent stories.
Okay. So we're electrical beings. We're working with technology, depending on the person's frequency, you can have an effect on it, and our emotions can have a huge effect. So I was telling the story about a friend of mine who, worked on a floor of, a huge floor, many, many different people, all on computers. And if she got angry about anything, she could literally wipe out the whole floor. Like nobody had computer.
Yeah. Wow. That was, it takes a minute to register that.
And she knew she could do this. They actually set her up with a little grounding pad she could put one hand on, because she worked on a computer all day, and she needed to. They were calling the IT guys. I would imagine it would have been quite a deal. Anyway, so she knew this, and she knew that, walking down the street at night, she could or even driving down the street, she would shut off street lights. And a lot of people are like this, But the funny story is, one day she's shopping at a superstore with her son, and he's fairly little, he's 8 or 9, something like that. And the power goes out and all the lights go out. You know what it's like. All the buzzing stops and it gets real quiet, even though the store is full. And her son pipes up, "Mom, stop doing that." She was so embarrassed, because people are wondering, but he was so used to it. But
I so appreciate, I love that story, because it's a gift, right? To kind of pick up on our energy fields and how we affect technology and things around us, right? And I appreciate that story, because even while I'm driving, I notice the same thing too. Or when I go for walks, a lamppost would just click, click, click. And even when I'm driving, literally just follow me as I'm clicking. So
exactly. Yeah, that's what happens.
I love the sharing of these stories, because it's like people can relate, and they can, they won't be like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one or whatever, but it's like, oh, wow, somebody else has that gift as well. So thank you for sharing that. So Marilyn Dyke is a level 3 QHHT practitioner. And I like to call a very dear friend of mine. I went to go see her after a 1-year wait list, which is, hey, she's high in demand. But I would love for you if you could segue us into what is QHHT and what is hypnosis, kind of like contrary to popular belief.
Okay. All right. So QHHT was founded and developed by a woman named Dolores Cannon, who has written 17 books on the experiences of her clients. So as in the late 60s, I believe, her husband took training to become a hypnotist, and she would help him. And so they would do, it was classical hypnosis. They would do people who wanted to quit smoking, allergies, that kind of thing. They would work on that. Anyway, a doctor heard about them and referred a woman to them who needed to lose weight. She just couldn't lose weight. And during the session, this woman, and as another personality sort of appeared with this whole lifetime she was talking about. And Doris and her husband didn't know what the heck it was. So she couldn't figure out. Nobody she knew, I guess, knew what was going on. So she went to her pastor, because at the time, Dolores, I mean, she was a Sunday school teacher. That's naturally the first place where she would look. And she asked about this reincarnation thing, or this past life thing, and she was kicked out of the church. But of course, that didn't stop Dolores. Man,
No.
that girl, yeah, she was very curious. So this just sparked her curiosity, and she spent, I'm guessing here, the 70s doing past life regression after that, because it was so interesting for her. And then, in the maybe late 70s, early 80s, all of a sudden, she noticed there was another personality, another something coming into the session that was very wise, very loving, very compassionate, that would, answer questions if she asked, really wanted to help the client, would even do physical and emotional healing. And so she began working with what she ended up calling the subconscious, but really what it is our higher self. I think that's a term that most of us
are familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah. So she started working with the higher self. And so gradually, over 45 years, through trial and error, she developed what she later named QHHT, which is a process, takes hours long, but it's a process where a person relaxes down to the deeper levels of consciousness, and where their higher self can answer questions, and it can do physical and emotional healing. So she worked on this through trial and error, found that some of the things in classical hypnosis didn't quite mesh as well with this type of an energy and whatnot, and developed this. And then I believe in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, she was told that she needed to teach this, because she was just one person. And at that time, she was traveling all over, like around the world, doing sessions and talking and whatnot about it. And so she needed to teach others how to do it, because they told her, she can't do it all herself, as much as she would have tried, but she just couldn't do it all herself. So that's how the teaching began. She began to teach. Yeah. So hypnosis really is just simply relaxation. And this is what I always, tell my clients. There's nothing mysterious about it. We do it all the time. We relax to the deepest level of consciousness when we go to sleep at night. And during the day, quite often, when we're watching TV, listening to music, playing music, driving, doing repetitive tasks or exercises, daydreaming, meditating. These are all times when we naturally relax. And when we relax, we drop into a deeper state of consciousness. And when we do that, we naturally open up our creative, imaginative side, which is where our higher self communicates through.
And I love how you said that you communicate to your higher self through imagination.
Through
that's how it communicates our to
intuition.
You.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And our higher self is communicating with us constantly, and in all ways, not just through what we might feel or know or hear, but it's also in our environment, what we see, signs, books you read, magazines,
Yeah.
shows you watch. I mean, it's constantly communicating. And it is us. It's the bigger part of us. It's the part of us that is connected to the all and can answer questions and can, because we can all heal ourselves. And basically that's what we're doing. We just believe at this point we need the middleman of the higher consciousness, but we can heal ourselves. Definitely. Yeah.
That's a powerful, statement to make, is to know, your solutions are within you in that kind of context.
Exactly. Always.
Okay.
And they always have been. But
And
we're just,
the higher self, could you say, sorry, is this like a conglomerate of personalities that, like, how would you describe that through your practice? Because you communicate directly with people's higher selves.
yeah. The higher self ultimately is the all. It is oneness. It's,
Mm-hmm.
we are all, we think of ourselves as separate, but we are all one. And
Okay.
that's what the higher self. So can you imagine being piped into all knowledge, everything that ever was, everything that ever will be, it's infinity, all knowledge like that. And that's what we are working towards. And this is what I've seen, especially over the last 30 years, how we have raised our frequency to the point where we are being able to embody or maybe have a closer connection with our higher self. And we just think most people just think it's normal. They don't feel any different necessarily. They don't think any different. It's just we have evolved and our frequency is raised to the point where we can have a much closer connection
Where we're
to
starting
the
to
wisdom.
recognize our multidimensional selves, and because
Exactly.
someone
Yeah.
might ask, why, Marilyn, why go through a past life and bringing it up today in a separate entity or energy living a different life?
Why bring it up? Because, well, we don't always bring it up.
Okay.
Not everybody, is going to experience a past life, like what I would call a classical past life. More and more, we're having people having experiences, just floating in darkness or the in space, and what a cool feeling that is, eh? Or
That's beautiful.
sometimes people they realize that they're just floating in oneness. They're floating they are source. And so, when I ask them, well, do you sense where you end and something else begins? And they're like, well, no, it's all one and I am this. It's endless. So can you imagine? I mean, how do they describe it? I don't know how they manage to describe something like that, but it's really cool that we can have that experience in body and remember that, isn't that cool?
That is beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so well put, because you're like, yeah, how do you put into words that kind of, that experience? And then when you have that experience, and it's similar to kind of like people going out of body experiences or near death experiences, after you have that perspective of like that cosmic oneness, you can't go back to
Changes
whatever.
your life.
It
Yeah.
changes your life. Like
Yeah.
that's definitely life changing. And I know we'll jump into some cases here of how past lives affect the current, or how they communicate through the healing process, which you're going to touch upon shortly here. Before we jump into it, I kind of wanted to share, when I went in to come see you, one of the most powerful experiences I had with you was prior, because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, there might be people who haven't gone to a QHHT session. I highly recommend it. I recommend you. I loved working with you. And just sitting there for I was like 3 hours prior to our session, and we just sat there in like this quiet, trusted space without any judgment, just full listening. And you're like, tell me your story. That was powerful for me. Like, that was
Yeah.
just, how many times do we do this even in today's society to take that time
Yeah.
to listen to somebody and say, tell me your story. Like who were the key players that came in your life that explore these themes and whatnot? And there's a reason why you do set that
Hmm.
up for your session afterwards, should it come into play.
Yes. Well, it's important information for me to know, because once we get started in hypnosis, part of it, that information is invaluable. You never know I don't know where the client's going to go, what they're going to experience. And so knowing their past in this life, you can see where there's connection. So I, I might ask a question or two that I wouldn't have asked if I didn't know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important, but not only just that. I mean, the healing starts then.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's
Yes,
what,
it does.
it is such a healing thing to do, to talk about your life and to know that, there's no judgment on anything, because to me, we're here to experience. And there's no judgment ultimately on our experience. The only sin we can commit is not experiencing. So how do we do that? It's impossible.
I love that. That was just, I love that definition. It's just, it's so
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So, we put judgment on our own experience, and, sometimes we get judged for our experience, but ultimately, when we leave this life, it's like nobody else is putting any judgment on it. It's
It's
all
true.
experience, and it's all valuable experience, no matter which way we go. And as the higher consciousness has told me, well, if she doesn't get it this time, that's okay. She can do it again and again and again and again until she gets it.
So do you find that's okay? That's beautiful. It's because it's like, it is kind of like a play and a set of characters that we all kind of come in here. We have these agreements. We'll touch upon this after with some of, but you're going to talk about the soul and how it comes here to explore things. And
Mm-hmm.
is that what you find, Marilyn? That the purpose for many of why we're here is to come
Is
to explore and to experience?
to experience, yeah,
Okay.
and to learn through our experiences in all ways. Like, we're going to experience something in all ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
There was, I want to share this too. There was an image, and it was like just like this white light, right? And it's kind of like at the end of, and I know people don't want to talk about death. It's like this scary kind of thing and whatever, but in that transitionary moment, it puts everything, it's like the focal point that puts everything into like existence or into context or whatever you want to put it, like
Mm-hmm.
your whole life, everything from like when you're born, your grades, to the people you met, to all the lessons you've learned or whatever, that one pivotal point, if you just keep looking at that from the higher self perspective, you're right. There's no judgment. There's no sin. There's none of that. There's just like this collective group that just came here to just, let's do this.
Yeah, and it's like you're the one in the trenches. You're the one who doesn't remember, who
Right.
gets, to really um, try to learn all this in the muck of the 3D environment, and they are your support. Your
Right.
higher consciousness, your guides, or whatever you want to call this, they're here to support you. They're not here to judge you. They know your plan, and they're trying to help you to fulfill your plan. But if you go off track, well, really, it's okay. You can, and I'm
So what are,
sure I have.
yeah, right. So what are like some cases that stood out for you through your practice in regards to healing, where it was really significant of how something came into play?
Okay. Well, one thing I want to touch on first is
Okay.
the range of beings that we, like
Right.
physical and non-physical beings, that we experience in what we would call a past life, or I prefer to call a past experience, or just an experience. And there's no limitation to our experiences. So my clients have experienced themselves as all kinds of different animals, mythological animals like mermaid and dragon, and A unicorn, they've experienced themselves as trees, as rocks, water, which is really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, air, just as light, a color,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, all different kinds of ETs. I've rarely had the same being show up, all kinds of different ETs,
Okay.
and just energy, or they look down and they say, well, I don't see anything, but they are consciousness.
That's so, you mentioned unicorn and I was like, I was just, and
It's really
mermaids
good.
and
Yeah.
all, yeah. And, actually like water, right? Like that's,
Hmm.
so you're taking like how consciousness looks at itself as if it was water, as if it was a rock.
Hmm.
A rock would be kind of like,
Well,
this is so interesting.
they're having yeah, consciousness is having that experience. So I wrote about on my blog. There is a person who experienced themselves as a drop of water in the ocean. I think I called it The Adventures of a Drop of Water, and it was really cool. and, and so
So good.
she's going around experiencing all this, and then she thought, oh, I'll go up north. So she travels up north, and then she sees her friends or other parts of herself
Yeah.
as drop of water beginning to freeze, and she thought, no, I don't want to stay here that long. So she turned around and hightailed it down south again. It was pretty cool
I
experience.
love that.
Yeah,
I really love that. That's so beautiful.
yeah. Hmm.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like
And
that. I mean, what do you come after a session knowing that, like that changes your life.
yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And there's something I was going to add here. Oh, I can't remember, but anyway, it's just we have no idea what the experience is going to be. We just want to roll with it, and
Okay.
the thing is, whatever is brought to the person,
Mhm.
their higher self has brought them that for a reason,
Okay.
and we don't have to figure out the reason. I always say, you don't have to explain it. You don't have to uh, try to understand it. Just describe it to me. That's all you have to do. Just
Okay.
describe it and enjoy the experience, because I'm going to ask the higher self later on why they were shown that. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll
So
get the
okay, so speaking of that, for healing then, you had a really interesting case there. Of
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I wanna touch up a bit on that.
Okay, so just this really illustrates how literal it can be. Okay, so there was a man who, he hadn't injured himself or anything, but he was experiencing chronic pain down his left side, and especially his left leg.
Okay.
Anyway, his past life, he was riding a horse. And in a remote area. And I guess the horse misstepped, and they both went tumbling down the embankment. And I guess the horse landed on top of them, whatever, badly broke. I mean, I think it even affected the ribs and the arm, but badly broke his leg,
Okay.
and in several places. And of course, this is a very remote area. Even though he called out, no one ever came by, and he died a very traumatic death in that life. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what I find often is at the moment of death, whatever emotion, whatever the person is feeling at that time, sometimes they will carry it forward into the present life or any other life. And so that's emotional energy that needs to be acknowledged, understood, and then released. And so
Okay.
that's what we did. So it was very, I mean, there was no guesswork there. You knew exactly where this chronic pain that he had, where it was coming from. Yeah.
And can you follow up with the client after to see how the session
I
went? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're asked not to,
Okay.
because, it puts a lot of pressure on the client if I'm contacting them after. If they want to contact me, I mean, I always leave the door open at
Right.
any time. If you want to contact me, ask me questions, tell me, what happened in your session, I would love to hear, but I will not contact you unless, yeah, I have a couple of times only because I've been, my intuition tells me I need to contact that
Okay.
person, but
And just to further, well, just to add to your story there, I have heard of other healers who have seen, like, people can see auric fields and energies on bodies, and then they will go see that person's past life. Maybe there was a wound, maybe there was a soldier, they're a warrior, and they know exactly where the weapon went, where they kept falling in that area, sometimes with chronic pain, as you were saying, and
yeah,
they would just touch the area with permission. And some of them are, they'll acknowledge it, like you just said, acknowledge that pain, and then it's just, and they know where on the body and where in that life that pain was inflicted. That was,
uh-huh,
it's
yeah.
magic.
I actually, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I remember quite a few number of years ago, a woman came and she was telling me about her life, and sure, her skin was brown,
Yeah.
and I remember her arms were. I kept thinking, has she burned her arms badly? Because she had this kind of a mottling color on her arm,
Yeah.
on her right arm, and
Okay.
the she landed, her past life was she was a 7-year-old girl. She's standing outside watching her house burning, and her entire family is in the house. She's the only one who escaped. And she
Wow.
was taken to hospital and later ended up in a orphanage. Her right arm had been burned. That's the only injury that she had.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Those are like those goosebump kind of moments, right? How it kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
I have to say, it defies the logical mind.
It
So,
does, and yet it
and
makes
it,
sense,
and it does,
you know?
okay.
Yeah.
I love that
Like,
answer.
it's not something you'd ever think of,
Right.
unless you're like me and you're looking at that.
Right.
And that, to me, I kept looking at her arm, and I think I even asked her if that had been burned, and then she told me, she says, "No, I was born that way."
Okay.
She was born with that. So that was a birthmark.
I was
So
going to say a
birthmarks are
birthmark.
very
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's an I've heard that as well. There's an association with birthmarks, and yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's
And
neat. I love
sometimes
that.
that comes up. Yeah.
What are some, because the stories are so powerful, and I find them so relatable sometimes, and the courage that clients go through to, look at these things, right? At that subconscious or higher mind level, or however somebody
Mhm.
wants to call it.
Mm.
What would you find through your experience that you've been so awed by even more of these kind of cases? Like something that kind of blew your mind away by,
Okay.
because
I
I
haven't
know
been,
I know you have, though. You have so many of
yeah.
those. She's going to write a book, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I keep bugging her for the book.
I haven't been given permission to talk in detail about this, but
Okay.
there was someone who came who had an appendage, we'll call it, that had been broken very badly and
Hmm.
had healed up, but it was much smaller than the other side, the
Okay.
appendage on the other side. And I saw this. You could see that it was much smaller. It kind of atrophied, I guess, in a way. And the higher, after the healing was done, the person got up and we compared the two appendages, and they were exactly the same size.
Oh
And
wow.
I know what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, and all she had to do was accept it. She just accepted it and good to go. That's all you have to do. Just
Okay.
accept it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, don't doubt.
Do you find that with your practice, are there common themes that are coming up for Earth, or yeah, for Earth, or just through your practice at soul themes? I mean, is that, I'm almost getting that there's, don't expect anything except for just kind of magic to happen with these sessions. Nothing's really planned. There isn't an expected
No.
outcome of a past life, or even that, you know what I mean? It just,
Yeah. So, every once in a while they might throw something at me a couple of times that they would want me to write about. But as far as themes, as soon as I think I'm seeing something, repeat, it's gone.
Okay.
So no expectations. That is really important to
Okay.
have for the client and also for me. I sit there and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to let it flow. Yeah. So theme. Now there are soul themes, and I don't know
Great.
if you want me to go into that now or
Let's go with it. Let's go with it. I want to
okay.
hear it.
So I became aware myself years ago that it felt like some of us anyway had a theme, what I called a flavor that we would experience all of our lives through this. And my personal one that I became aware of was stubbornness. So this is what I mean. I haven't checked this out with my higher self, but I'm pretty darn sure I'm living a lot of lives experiencing through stubbornness. That's sort of like the um, theme. I had another word. It's sort of like the color that I would experience everything through.
Mhm.
So, and to illustrate this, I had a client who said, I always feel abandonment, and I've never been abandoned in this life.
Okay.
But I always feel like that is a possibility. She's always on edge that this is a possibility. So she went to several snippets of lives. So she touched on I think about four, maybe five snippets of lives, and in each one of those snippets of different lives, she was abandoned in different ways. So later on, because this is one of her questions that she had later on, when I asked her higher consciousness, why does she feel this fear of abandonment throughout
Mhm.
this entire life? It's like a theme. And they said, well, when the spark left source, it looked down and saw nothing, felt abandonment. And
Okay.
so
See,
every
can you say that one
life,
more time, please?
okay, when this is what the higher consciousness said
Okay.
to me. When the spark left source,
Mhm.
okay, so it left source, it looked down and saw nothing, and it
Okay.
felt abandoned, it felt alone. And
Okay.
so this was the theme that this soul had experienced multiple lives
Okay.
through, was this abandonment. So she had experienced abandonment in all ways. And actually I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe that this was, we put an end to that because she had experienced abandonment in all ways. She didn't need to even experience it in this life. It was done.
Okay.
Okay. But I also have a very interesting session that I haven't written about. It must be 5 years ago I did this.
And
And
sorry, just so viewers are clear, all the sessions are obviously under strict confidence, and we sign forms that should it be shared, so all of that is done prior to this, just so
yeah,
people know. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and I never identify
of
anyone anyway,
course.
and I never talk about anything that would I identify them, like your job or where you live or anything like that.
Okay.
Um, and if you want, I can go through this. So we're starting this session. Was they experienced two lives. In the first life, the person, the soul died as an infant, so it was very short. So we went into this other life where he found himself in a room with these cloaked beings. Okay, so okay. Um, so I asked, what are they saying? I can't understand it. It's not my language. Can you understand it mind to mind? They're aggressive. They're adamant. About what? I don't know. I can't understand what they want me to do, but they want me to go. How do they appear? Cloaked. Like with a cloak on? Yeah, I can't see their face. It's hooded. And they won't come near me. Why? Now this is your really rough transcription,
No,
so I'm gonna.
you have my attention. You have my
Okay.
undivided and the viewer's undivided attention right
Okay,
now.
so there's going to be some blips. So there's many of them around, but none of them will touch me or come near me. They just keep yelling at me, but I can't understand them. But I want to, and I want to understand why they want me to go forward. Do you communicate with them? Yeah, I try, but they just keep yelling. What do they want you to do? Well, they want me to keep going forward through the doors. I don't know where the doors go, just a piece of metal door. Then there's not enough light to see the color. It's very dim. Cloaked beings are everywhere. Most aren't moving. Just the one who keeps yelling at me the most. I don't know if he's yelling or talking. I don't understand. He won't move his hands. They're crossed. The hands are long. And from what I can tell, they're just poking out of this cloak, skinny and wrinkly. Have you seen him before? No. Where does he come from? Somewhere I don't want to be.
That's an honest answer.
Yeah.
That's so honest and raw.
Is that where they want you to go? Where they came from? Maybe. I don't know. I'm confused and afraid. I'm not a baby anymore. So he's talking about his past, the one previous to that. I'm taller than them. I'm thin, just taller than them and white, but coherent. I understand what's going on, but I can't understand them. So what is going on? Trying to get more information. They need to get me out of there. Why? I don't know. They're just adamant that I go through the door. They won't go near me. They won't touch me. They can't make me. Why can't they touch you? I don't know. They're not allowed. They're afraid to touch me. I'm not like them. How are you different? Always. They're just different. Can you tell that they're not like me? No, you can tell they're not like me. They're too short. So you're much taller. Yes. And I'm pure white. I have very defined features, high cheekbones, but the white isn't my skin. Something on my skin. It's powder. It's like they dumped something on me. I think so. I'm just white. I love my body. So he was really liking this body.
Yeah.
So are you hearing anything? No. Do you feel comfortable with that white powder? No. What was the purpose of the powder? Cleanliness, I think. And they can't touch you. Would you harm them? No, no. Are you afraid of them? No. Of the situation? Yes. Are they fearful for your safety? No, I don't think so. What do you do? I give in. I get closer to the door. It opens up, but it's just sky everywhere.
Oh wow.
So he's out and he's just sort of hanging in the sky. I get him to look back at the door. The door has disappeared, and he gradually drops down to the ground where he's feeling, and it's and his skin is dry and itchy, and it's just a grassy flat area.
And
There's
sorry,
no hills.
and nobody in this environment is human, correct?
Is what?
Is human.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Okay. So I'm just, cutting some of this out because it does go on for quite a bit. So he's in this environment and feeling, his knees feel heavy, condensing kind of thing. His arms are crackly, but the rest of his skin is all smooth. I ask, are you tall? I don't know, nothing to compare to. I'm not an adult, but not young. Where do you go? I just walk, but there's nothing around. Legs super heavy, hard to walk. It hurts my joints. You just walk in any direction? Yeah. So I asked him to go to a time when something different happens.
Okay.
And so there's a derelict tree standing there, and there's a burn on the other side of it, but there's nothing at the top of it. I feel like I need to sit down on top of the berm, and but there's nothing there, just more grass on the other side. Okay, so let's leave that scene and go to a time when you first became aware of where you're going or why you're in that grassy place, so that you can understand. So where are you? I don't know. Just describe it to me. I don't know. I can't see it. What are you feeling? Bitterness. What are you aware of around you? Feels like there's something pushing on me all around me, but there's nothing there. My chest is really heavy. Is it dark or light? It's nothing. There's nothing. What color? Gray. So I asked more, is he standing, sitting down? He's upright. What do you look like? There's nothing to look at. Do you have a body? No. So I asked him to step outside of himself and tell me what he sees there. And he sees just gas, just
Okay.
fumes, he called it. Okay. So
Okay.
he's just seeing blues and greens and oranges like a gas. Then what happens next? It's like I've been sucked up something. Do you feel like you're inside something? Yeah, but it's more turbulent. Are you feeling the turbulence around you? I'm turbulent. Do you create the turbulence yourself? No, it's just like I'm being sucked up something. So he's feeling that being sucked up.
Okay.
So move ahead to a time when something different happens then. So he has been sucked up into something like a canister, but it's moving around. I feel like somebody is carrying it. So he's in a canister.
Okay,
Someone
this
is
is getting
carrying it.
interesting, Marilyn. What?
Oh, yeah, I know. So then what happens? Well, they're pouring it out and going with it. What are they pouring it into? A vat, just this big vat. What's in the vat? I'm floating on top of it. It's water or something. It starts turning around. Somebody's churning it. Do you stay on top? No, I'm getting mixed in and it's getting harder, more solid. So you're becoming more solid. So what sort of form does it feel like? More like clay, he says. And then what happens? Something starts playing with it. What do you mean? The vat is tipping it, somebody's tipping the vat around, but it's too solid. It can't come out. I feel like I'm stuck in it though. Then what happens? Nothing. You stay in the vat? Yes. I'm there, and they're trying to pull us out. Who are they? I don't know. They want to do something with us. They're not sure how to get us out. They just dig us out. With what? A paddle. There's more of you? I think so, but they're hidden. They're deeper. I can't hear anything. All I can hear is this paddle trying to dig us out. So they get them out. It takes a while. And then when they get them out, they're all standing. They're humanoid, but they all look the same, and there's
Okay.
several of them.
Okay.
So you're out of the vat. We're all looking at each other confused. What do they look like? Similar to me. What do you look like? Just a normal guy. Okay. So,
Okay.
so he's human.
So,
And
okay, just to put everything into perspective, he started as non-human. Is that kind of like non-human, or he had that white chalky thing, correct?
and what that is, I don't know. Okay.
But then he went through a door, and then he turned in the light, and then he
and he
was
got
put
sucked up. Yeah.
right.
Then
Okay.
he was gassed and he got sucked up. Okay.
Okay.
This will all be explained later.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but just so the
Okay.
viewers know
You'll
where we're at
understand.
now, because this is all
Yeah.
right. It's gonna come full circle here.
Yeah. So I asked, is there clothing? No. The one with the paddle, he's different. He's a short guy again. Does he have the cloak on? No. It looks like he's sweating. I don't know what that. So what does he look like? Well, he's very calm and he's short. His head is big, no nose, has eyes, very defined eyes, just piercing black, all pupil in a teardrop shape. Very small mouth. Body is wrinkly gray, no hair. So that sounds to me like the classical gray. Eh?
Right.
So what's he doing now? Nothing. I'm just standing. He's just standing with his paddle. And we are standing around wondering, confused. What do we do? So they're all adults. So what happens next? I don't know. We don't want to go. We don't know where to go. Is this short person able to tell you where to go? No, but he's not threatening. Can you communicate with the others? Yeah, we're all the same. I had a lot of typos there. Can you communicate with the short one? He just stands there. Let's move ahead a little bit. So we move ahead and they are all just moving. They're pushing past him. There's a lot of us and we just keep following each other down a hallway. And the color of the walls are gray and they're dirty and they're greasy, he says. Yeah, so this is the type of detail you notice in something like this. So
Yeah.
they're all walking single file down this hallway, and then they get to a place that's like like a stadium or a hall. Like, so there's this big window,
Okay.
and we're all looking out the window, and there's a bunch of chairs, and they could go down to the chairs, but they don't. They keep going further, but there's nothing at the end. And then they're all male. We're all male, look exactly the same. We just stay there looking out the window. Then I condense time again, moving forward, and they are all sitting on benches,
Okay.
waiting. Okay. So we just sit down. Nobody needs to talk. We just sit on these long benches. And so this is in a large room, and I move them ahead to when something different happens, and then they all get up and start moving. And the whole room moves. It's like we're spinning. Does anyone know what's happening? We don't care. No emotion, no questions, nothing. It's all counterclockwise. Just keep spinning. Nobody's needing to do anything, but I get heavier. So this keeps spinning. So let's move now to when something different happens. Well, the door opens from the way we came in, and there's a different room. What happens when the door opens? More of those tiny dudes, they're just there, and we all turn our heads and look out the door. What do the short ones do? Wait for us to get up, and we follow them to another room, and then they start touching us. Where are they touching you? Everywhere. They're molding us, defining us. Did you not already have features? Not like this. What are they touching you with? Their hands. So how does this change you? It's awkward, just changes. It's like they don't really have a direction as to what they want to do. They just keep changing us continually. We're leading, and they're leading to another room. How have they changed you now? I feel shorter, heavier, but we're all different. All human, yeah, but different. Shapes, tallness. I'm shorter, wider, some are tall. We're all just different. Okay. What they're talking about now is the last thing that he was shown in the past life was where he realized he was a blue, green, orange gas that was sucked up into a cylinder and tipped into a vat. So I'm talking to his higher consciousness now.
Okay.
What were you trying to show him with that? It was the creation, this is said in a deeper voice, almost wondrous voice. Creation of the client, many people. Is this how humans were created? And the higher consciousness said, well, this is hard. Okay, so tell me the best way that you can. Because remember, your higher consciousness is using the vocabulary that you have.
Right.
That's that vocabulary, they have at their disposal. So, and this person was not at the time, he wasn't into spirituality or ETs or anything like that. So he didn't have the
That base
verbal
knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. So a vat meaning this is my vocabulary now coming into play.
Like a big, I just envision a big metal round vat.
Okay.
All of this gas.
It's for those who don't know what a vat is.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
always
like
thought
a
of
big
tax.
bowl.
Vats are like taxes in other countries, and I'm like, okay, I got taxed.
No.
No, but I get it. I always say I thought it was a mold as well, but I just wanted to confirm if anybody else as well was asking that question. But thank you for
Okay.
sharing. Okay.
So I'm asking his higher consciousness. So tell me the best way you can. They're spirits. They're molded from the beginning. So they actually didn't have a physical body? No. What were the spirits molded from? Many different elements. Can you explain what sort of elements? Well, many different places, from many different places.
Okay.
Is that like DNA? Yes, but DNA is a material thing, isn't it? I ask. It's what makes them. It makes them so different. So the DNA and I've heard this before, and I can, we have physical DNA, we have spiritual DNA.
I've heard that as well. Yes.
Yeah. So each person, yeah. So the DNA is like a frequency or something. I'm trying to understand this. It's from so many different places, so many different things. Each person has something different. Is that what is happening when they were being molded into different shapes? Yes. So each spirit gets molded. So this is like
It's like a spirit creation center. It's something out of like
the creation of, yeah. And then what happens? Okay, so first I should ask, what were the attributes that the client's spirit was molded into? So here's the question of the theme. I don't know, so as higher consciousness says, I don't know if he's ready. So he doesn't know if he's ready for this information.
Okay.
Because
I like how the higher self looks out for you.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
It's like, no, we're not going to touch this right now. We're
yeah, yeah,
it's just right here.
yeah. They have to find a way. So okay, I'm saying, okay, I understand what you mean. All right, so this is something that I've been somehow aware of, and I call it the flavor of each spirit. And we all have a different flavor that we live all of our existences through. Can you just in a word tell us what flavor the client is? What is his attribute, just in a word or two? Persistence. So does he live through every existence with that attribute, persistence? Very. And this is how he's learning all of his lessons, through all of his experiences. Yes. So in this life, he's learning his lessons through persistence. Yes. Okay. So that's pretty much the end of that. So that was sort of like, you have something like that. You don't know whether this is metaphorical or whether it's literal.
Right. Okay. That was a good distinction. Thank you for bringing that up too.
Yeah.
I know in some of the sessions you're like, allow your imagination. And I want to let everybody know, and everybody kind of knows this. I mean, flight, electricity, sound, all of this was brought through imagination. There's some of the greatest inventions were thought of a question, and we played with it, and we brought it into physical form. That's the power of imagination. And
you know how the inventors brought that information through? Through relaxation.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's how they bring it through. Yeah.
And it was through their own downtime, relaxation. Some brought it through dream states.
Mm-hmm.
Daydreaming, and like, hey, Tesla's and the,
intuition.
Intuition, definitely intuition, repetition, looking at synchronicities.
Yeah. It's not necessarily all what you can memorize and learn that way. It's what you can allow through your knowing, what you will, because some people will block that. They think, well, that's just a fanciful thought, or it's just a daydream. But it can have great importance if you will pay attention to it. But we do tend to pass it off, in favor of what we've learned through repetition and rote and all that. What we think, what we can think. Whereas really,
in this case, it touched upon some other things as well, which was, that his soul was being, either he was self-existent in this state or whatever, but he went through so many different transitionary periods, and it looked like he was created by other entities or energies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, in his scenario, right? Because I know everybody, like you said, has their own scenario, but I mean, that's kind of like that. Marilyn.
Yeah, I know, and I don't. This is one of those things where I have hesitated to write about it because I don't know. Are all souls created this way? I don't know the answer. I've tried asking, but I can't really get. I'm just not ready for the answer, I guess, because I have a hard time. So that's why I haven't. So today, this is breaking news for me. I haven't written about it. I haven't talked about it. But yeah,
and here we are doing it live on Happy Freya. It's live, episode 10 right here. We're going into uncharted territory because it's tough. it might be
Yeah.
tough for some people to hear, like, other entities and energies, don't touch me and all this other kind of stuff, or they don't want to, and and all these
Well,
things, and
it turns out later on, when I'm talking to his higher consciousness, it turns out those beings, those cloaked beings,
right.
he is from the same place as them.
I
That
thought, okay,
so so and he has been what we call abducted many times in his
hmm
lifetime. He doesn't know, he doesn't remember,
okay,
because they have cared for him and nurtured him and watched over him. But if he has any remembrance at all, it's he's afraid because he doesn't understand.
and there's
So
so much. Okay, thank you for sharing that. That
so
really put it
that's
into
why,
context. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why he was like they were yelling. Well, they were probably just talking.
they're probably thinking, "Hey, do you
Communicate.
remember? You're one of us." Like,
I know exactly, and we're like, no, we're so overcome with fear sometimes we don't
yes,
recognize that.
and
That
yeah, that's an
as
important recognition that is of the fear, is kind of going there, because it's one of those things, like, when you go there, it's like, how do you incorporate that knowledge? Or the higher self probably just infinity symbols it into existence, right? Because it's bringing it in for a reason,
yeah, yeah.
for that person. Because some of these cases, Marilyn, you must, like, sit back in your chair and be like, wow, like, that was a
Usually, I can understand them, but every once in a while, like I say, they throw something at you that there is just no understanding. And the thing is, I could only go so far. I
okay.
would dearly love to have another session with this person, because now I know that he has hopefully listened to his recording, has a much
Which you
deeper
encourage.
understanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
a much deeper understanding now, and I think we could get a lot more information to help to explain all this.
And
But it was given in the best way possible for him at that time.
I love that. It's the higher self being the guardian of that moment. And what I'm getting as well, that I want to add, and I'm getting, is that a lot of the times those abduction cases that people classify as that, it's the galactic family members making contact with their members who have forgotten
Yes,
that
yes.
they are part of that broader community. So
Hmm.
they don't want to frighten or scare. They're just like, "Hey, Bob, it's me.
Yeah,
We
I
stay
know.
on this planet together. Oh, you're human today. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How's it
What's the
going?"
matter? Did I say something? When the-
Right, right, and to
uh,
value the differences in the unique expression that creation has. That
or what the client, they sometimes realize that ET standing there communicating with them is them.
Oh, that's powerful. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, that's powerful.
And Dolores found that as well. So then, okay, if that being is me, well, what's to fear?
And that falls in line with, it's a beautiful tie into what we just started with at the beginning of this conversation, of all of us being one. And I like to say the one fraction itself in order to experience itself. And if we
Yeah,
see, if we see through the eyes of creation, we would really appreciate diversity, not only on this planet, other star systems, like you said, from a drop of water to a unicorn to the creation of a soul. You would
yeah.
appreciate each and every moment.
You
So,
know, if you can dream it up, it exists.
you said that. Yes, you did. I remember you saying that. Yeah, you're like, if
Yeah,
you can dream it up, it exists. So dream beautifully, and dream about
yeah.
kindness for the planet and for the earth, and for Mother Earth, and all beings alike. That we as humanity can evolve and become more of a caring, loving civilization and species going forward.
It
And
really is all one.